Shall we?
Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to At the 55, your home for U Sports football. Me and Tom are back on the mics, live from Western Alumni One by. Me and Tom are going to break down this game along with the rest of the games in the OUA and U Sports, the two games we had on a Friday night, but not before I say first, Tom, how the heck you doing, my friend?
Oh, I could not be doing any better, my man. Being live at Western to watch the two undefeated teams play against each other in what's going to be the most exciting matchup of the entire weekend is absolutely, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, especially with your beautiful face right beside me, my man.
Right back at you, my friend. And we talked about it on our Week 9 preview podcast, but this game has a huge precedent of the last 2 years. These two clubs, whether it was 2 years ago matching up in the final week of the season, being undefeated, or last year about week 3, the winner had went on to not only host that Yates Cup, but then hoist that Yates Cup as the OUA champion. So a huge game here in store for us. But some major games, not just in the OUA, but across U Sports that we're going to break down as well. Of course, the game happening excited for as well. But let's start with the games that took place last night. Friday night, we had two games happening, one out of Montreal and one out of BC. Let's start with Sherbrooke and Concordia. Tom, final score in this one, Concordia 27, Sherbrooke 23. By the numbers, this is a game that was all Concordia all game long. Sherbrooke had some effective play within the special teams units. Take us through this matchup with a game that had a lot on the line for that sort of, we obviously talk about Montreal and Laval as the cream of the crop in the RSEQ, but there's a number of teams duking it out to sort of see who's going to make it in to those third, fourth slots for the RSEQ.
Yeah, this was incredible. I had the chance to actually watch this game for the first time because Concordia, thank you so much for putting this game on your YouTube. Free for everybody to watch. I was able to watch this one. And while the numbers certainly say that this was a Concordia-led game, this was a very dominant showcase by Sherbrooke for the vast majority of the game itself. I mean, up until in the first half alone, Jonathan Martel Joseph, running back for Sherbrooke, was running all over these Stingers in the first quarter, halfway through. Actually, in the first drive, he had 30 yards of rushing to his total of almost 100 on the day. So really being dominant from that standpoint. And I saw a lot of really great things from both of these clubs here. Jeremy Fife, quarterback for Sherbrooke, he struggled a little bit here. I mean, he finishes 10 for 18, 171 yards, one touchdown with the one interception. But Concordia stuck in this game. They remained true, even with a quarterback battle that Concordia has been experiencing all year long between Antoine Oumet and Xavier Tremblay. They were still able to pull out this win, and it was truly incredible to see.
With the win, it brings a three-way tie of sorts. And of course, we just, we're doing backflips and in our heads, we're spinning backwards and upwards and every which way, figuring out tie-break scenarios with the OUA teams. And obviously, there's a lot to be found out after the games that we have this weekend. But with the win and with McGill being on the bye week, we have a situation now where all three of these clubs are sitting at 2-5 going into their final week of play next week. With how these teams have been matching up, it's such a, we talk about that transient property of, well, one team played this team well, or do you like to see in that RSEQ shake up in terms of the playoff aspects? As we know from friends of ours out in Montreal, there's a ton of iterations still to be discovered as the last few weeks finish up here. But in terms of the matchups that we've seen, what would you like to see to give us, we have our suspicions from evidence from pretty much every year in the RSEQ. We'll get that one.
Gill's strength right now is their running attack. I mean, we're home at the greatest rushing attack in the entirety of Canada here with the Western Mustangs just behind us. But in that number 2 spot, that's the McGill Redbirds. And with Jerry Momo and with ELR doing their thing, they really look impressive. And they gave Montreal obviously fits when both times that they played them, getting the win in the first week or the first iteration and then losing against Montreal at home, but by a slim margin. I think that's a great matchup, but with this Laval squad, they are so stout against the run. I think it's honestly because Coach Glenn Constantine used to be a defensive lineman himself. That front seven is always one of the best in the entire country, and they do not allow rushing yards very easily here. So a McGill squad that is really clearly trying to fight and trying to be in that number 3 spot in the RSEQ and even pushing to be in that number 2 spot, obviously with that win against Montreal. I'd love to see those guys get into it. I like this Concordia. They look like they can compete with anybody, and then other times they struggle with, some simple plays, let's say. But I would love to see a playoff setting that's got Laval, Montreal, McGill, and Concordia in there. I think that would make for a dynamic setup going into this.
And we're obviously going to talk about Laval when we get to their game against Montreal, but you talk about that run game from McGill. What's really come on strong for Laval of late really is that backfield of Mathieu Roy and Angel Vital, which has given them such an extra color to that offense, obviously to complement what Desjardins and Cool can do in the passing game. So really exciting to see, especially as Saskatchewan really just comes in and takes care of business. And Can West, that is on all of our minds, is now the continued absence of one Anton Ammanrud. And as we were looking through some of the Saskatchewan Huskies game recaps to see if there was anything in there, I'm forgetting the exact word that they said, but in discussing the play of one Jake Farrell, who had a really good game, obviously some mistakes in there. I'll let you talk about the day that he had. They referenced in the write-up how that he was there instead. When we talk about regular season matchups and a UBC team that's been struggling this year but shows some promise, we'll talk about them. That has to be the number one thing the Husky fans are concerned about.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, Jake Farrell, he's doing the very best that he can, and I think that he does have a lot of upside. But 19 for 29, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
It has to be.
It's not quite where this team wants to be, obviously, and certainly with Anton Ammanrud, especially with the growth that he's had this season so far, albeit he's missed the past couple of games, but he hadn't thrown a single interception to a guy that could be easily classified as the gunslinger, and just throwing balls up at times and just seeing who comes down with it, whether it's his guy or another guy. But he's been playing some of his very best football, so whatever it is that's causing him not to be there, whether it's an absence, whether he's dealing with something, whether it's an injury, whatever, we hope that he gets back, because Can West football is better when Anton Ammanrud is in there. But in this game, you can see pretty early on that with him out, they're going to lean on, and even when he's in, they're going to lean on Regan Frank. They're going to allow him to really do his thing. 14 rushes for 106 yards on the ground, showcasing that dynamic work that he's able to do. But I know that you and I were going back and forth about who's the Can West MVP. I want to enter in another name from this Saskatchewan Husky squad. I don't know if he'll win the MVP. I think the best. He takes the ball, he sprints to his left, sees that this UBC Thunderbird defense swarmed, and they did a really good job this entire game despite the 24 points. They did do a great job. He then has enough time, and he has the capabilities to stop on a dime, turn, sprint the other way, going the opposite direction across the field and going into the end zone pretty much untouched. Daniel Wiebe is easily one of, if not the best player on that Saskatchewan team, and that's a lot. That's saying a lot when you've got guys like